Why people who don't fit in are often the most worth knowing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Buddha Zen Wisdom, where we accompany you every day on your journey of discovery and growth. Today, we are going to talk about something that, I believe, holds great significance in how we perceive people around us, the ones who don't quite fit in. This could be a family member, a colleague, a friend, or perhaps someone you just met. It seems that, more often than not, people tend to look down on those who don't fit into the mainstream or the crowd. However, as time goes on and we gain more life experience, we begin to realize that the ones who don't fit in are often the ones we should seek to understand more deeply. Let's explore why that is. In the hustle and bustle of our daily lives, there's often a perception that someone who doesn't join in with the crowd, someone who doesn't participate in social events or follow mainstream trends, is somehow defective, detached, or distant. People can think of them as cold, unsociable, or even unapproachable. But the reality is far from that. In fact, it is often the case that those who choose to stand apart from the crowd are the ones who are internally strong, self-sufficient, and surprisingly the most valuable people to be around. Why is this so? Let's take a closer look at this concept through a few fascinating real-life examples. Steve Jobs, the reclusive genius who revolutionized the world. First, let's start with Steve Jobs, who is well known in the business world not just for his visionary ideas and brilliant products, but for his incredibly independent personality. Jobs, during his lifetime, was often referred to as a lone wolf. He was not one to follow the trends or norms of the corporate world. In fact, he preferred to work in isolation. He wasn't much of a social butterfly. Aside from the essential meetings, he wasn't seen much at any company gatherings or other events. Jobs bought Lucasfilm's computer animation division in 1986 for $10 million and created Pixar Animation Studios. At that time, the animation industry was dominated by the traditional Disney model, but Jobs had a different vision. He believed that technology was the skeleton of animation, while art was the soul. He was convinced that only when the two, technology and art, were perfectly merged would it be possible to create something truly extraordinary. In typical Steve Jobs fashion, he remained largely out of sight, working intensely behind the scenes. While Pixar's team began work on the first-ever full-length computer-animated film, Toy Story, Jobs was not to be found mingling or attending parties. Most of the time, he was alone in his office, focused on thinking, creating, and nurturing his vision for the future. His philosophy was clear: to truly create something monumental, you needed to focus and let go of the noise. When Toy Story hit theaters in 1995, it became a massive success, grossing $362 million worldwide, and it is considered a turning point in animation history. It was not just a box office hit, but a technological and artistic breakthrough. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "Only when a person is alone can they meet their true self." People who are not afraid of solitude are the ones who can deeply understand who they really are and what they're capable of. Jobs certainly embodied this concept. His deep focus and commitment to his vision were shaped in part by his preference for solitude and distance from societal pressures. In fact, those who seem to be outsiders often have an extraordinary inner strength that allows them to build the kinds of legacies that the world remembers. The story of Ding Yuanying, the quiet rebel. Now, let's move on to another example. This time, we turn to a fictional character, Ding Yuanying, from the popular Chinese TV drama The Way of Heaven, Tian Dao. In the show, Ding Yuanying moves to an ancient city, where he chooses to live a very low-profile life. He rents a modest apartment, avoids working, and keeps to himself, reading books, drinking tea, and listening to music. When he gets hungry, he casually goes downstairs to a noodle shop, eats, and returns to his quiet life. As time passes, he forms a subtle connection with the owner of the noodle shop. One day, the noodle shop owner casually asks him what he does for a living, and Ding Yuanying replies that he doesn't work. The owner laughs and mocks him, thinking that Ding Yuanying is just an unemployed man with nothing to do. Ding Yuanying remains silent, does not defend himself, and simply finishes his meal and leaves. This moment in the show illustrates a key point. It would have been easy for Ding Yuanning to explain his situation or to get into a confrontation with the noodle shop owner. But instead, he chose not to react. Why? Because, in his eyes, defending himself would have been futile. The noodle shop owner had already formed his opinion, and no amount of explanation could change that. Instead, Ding Yuanning took the higher road and let it go. This was his wisdom, to avoid unnecessary arguments, maintain his inner peace, and not to get involved in the noise of judgment. In another incident in the show, Ding Yuanning finds himself caught in a misunderstanding with a wonton shop owner. Even though the shop owner had already taken money from him, the owner asks for more. Rather than argue or become upset, Ding Yuanning simply pays the money again. It may seem like a weak reaction, but in reality, this shows an incredible level of inner strength and wisdom. He didn't waste time on petty disputes. Instead, he focused on maintaining his peace and moving forward. This calm and collected way of handling things, without getting lost in emotional reactions, reflects the deeper wisdom that people who seem out of sync with the world often possess. They know that life is far too short to be dragged into constant battles of ego and pride. They choose to conserve their energy for the things that matter most, like self-reflection and true connections with people who understand them. The story of Victor and the pianist who wanted to fly. Next, let's talk about a character from the movie The Pianist Who Wanted to Fly, named Victor. Victor, a young piano prodigy, had always felt different from his peers. Although he was extraordinarily gifted in music, especially with the piano, his talents made him stand out in a way that wasn't always appreciated by his classmates. While most kids his age were into different things, Victor found himself increasingly isolated. They saw him as a weirdo, someone too smart and too different to hang out with. The rejection started to wear on him, and eventually, he decided to try to blend in. He pretended to be someone he wasn't, listening to rock music instead of classical music and pretending to be less intelligent than he was, all in an effort to fit in. But as you can guess, this did not bring him the happiness he sought. One day, while browsing through a music store, Victor stumbles upon a piano album and realizes that what had been making him miserable was his own attempt to suppress his true self. He understood, then, that pretending to be someone else, pretending to fit in with a group that didn't understand him, was simply not worth it. Victor returned to his love for the piano, shedding the false persona he had created. He regained his true happiness by embracing his individuality. This story highlights a profound truth: trying to fit in with the crowd can often lead us to lose touch with who we truly are. When we suppress our passions or deny our talents just to be accepted by others, we end up sacrificing the very essence of who we are. In the end, it is our authenticity, our uniqueness, that brings us fulfillment. The wisdom of isolation, the case of the author Ken Shui. Next, let's explore the life of an incredibly private author, Ken Shui. Ken Shui, often considered a potential Nobel Prize winner in literature, is known for her works that explore the human condition and the complexities of life. Despite being a highly regarded author, Ken Shui is notoriously reclusive. While other writers are busy attending literary events, socializing with other authors, or participating in book tours, Ken Shui deliberately keeps her distance from the literary community. She avoids public life and instead focuses entirely on her writing. She once said, "I have my own philosophy. I'm not interested in joining the mainstream literary circle, and I don't want to." By staying away from the distractions of fame and socializing, she is able to channel all her time and energy into her creative work. This isolation has allowed her to develop a deep understanding of herself and her craft, leading her to produce some of the most unique and profound literature of our time. Ken Shui's choice to avoid the crowd and focus on her own path is a perfect example of how not fitting in can actually be a source of strength. It's not that she's antisocial, it's that she values her inner world more than external validation. For her, writing is a deeply personal journey, and by distancing herself from the noise of the outside world, she has found the space to cultivate her own voice. The power of self-discipline, Li Jian's quiet escape from the spotlight. Lastly, let's look at the story of Li Jian, a well-known Chinese singer. In the early days of his career, Li Jian was part of a musical duo that achieved massive success with their hit song A Lifetime with You. The song won numerous music awards, and the duo was catapulted to stardom. However, despite the fame and the public's overwhelming expectations, Li Jian chose to step away from the limelight. Unlike many celebrities who thrive in the public eye, Li Jian decided to prioritize his inner peace over fame. He withdrew from the intense media attention, cut off social engagements, and focused solely on his music and personal life. For 8 years, he remained largely out of sight. Even when he made his comeback on a popular television show, I Am a Singer, Li Jian once again chose to avoid the public spotlight after his success. He didn't indulge in the fame or seek to capitalize on it. Instead, he returned to his quiet life, surrounded by only a few close friends and family. This was his choice, to live authentically, without the distractions of fame and societal expectations. Li Jian's story teaches us a valuable lesson about self-discipline and the importance of staying true to oneself. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement and glamour of the world, but those who choose to remain grounded and focused on what truly matters, whether it's their passion, their family, or their personal growth, are often the ones who find true happiness. Conclusion: the wisdom of solitude and the importance of self-awareness. To conclude, I want to leave you with this thought: solitude and independence are not signs of weakness, nor are they a cause for pity. Instead, they are powerful tools for personal growth. The people who choose not to fit in with the crowd often have a deeper understanding of themselves and the world around them. They are not distracted by the noise of external expectations and are better able to connect with their true selves. As the famous writer Wang Xiaobo once said, "Loneliness and stillness, between two bamboo fences, with purple morning glories blooming all over the fence. On each flower, a blue dragonfly rests." May we all find peace and freedom in solitude, and may we cultivate a life of depth and authenticity that brings us true fulfillment.